Tell about your cherry orchard.
Yeah, my dad planted a little cherry orchard, sour cherries, and it was to be a cash crop. And as a family, you started picking cherries when you were like 4 or 5, and that was just a given. It happened, and the whole family got down there. I don't think we ever hired anybody. It was all family that picked the cherries. And so I picked cherries every summer. And then, as I got older, I would go and pick cherries in Brigham City, or just outside of Brigham City, a little town called Perry. And the school bus would come and pick us up about 4 o'clock in the morning and drive us down, and we'd work until it got hot. And then they wouldn't pick cherries after it got warm because they would swell and start being juicy and lose some of their goodness. So we were always home by maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But on the farm, we got paid. He always paid us more than other people would pay. Like this year, we'd get 2.5 cents a pound, or you know, and we were always paid more than ordinary people got paid for whatever it was. But 2 cents a pound for cherries, that was good money. And so picking cherries was always a given in my life. And when I went away to school and I got married, and I vowed to myself I would never pick another cherry. And so it's now 5 or 6, maybe 7 years later, and my husband comes home one day from work and he says, I got a job for the kids. And I said, you've got a job for the kids? And he said, yeah, this guy that I work with has a little cherry orchard, and I told him I'd bring my kids over and to pick cherries for him. And I said, no. And he said, well, sure, we can do that. You just take them over and let them pick cherries. And I said, no way would I ever allow any of my children to go into someone's orchard and pick cherries without knowing what they were doing, because I knew with every job there's ways to do it and ways not to do it. And on the farm, the last year that I was at home, besides the tomatoes, my dad let me be the orchard boss for the cherry orchard. And so I was responsible to see that everything was taken care of properly, and the trees were picked clean, and everybody got, the right what's my word again? The amount of stuff that they picked was written down correctly, and so everything was taken care of. So I knew what had to go into it, and so of course Grandpa couldn't go because he was working. So guess who spent the next 15 years
in the cherry
orchard?
How old were we when we started? Do you remember?
Well, I think that you were probably 5, and Tom was 7 or something. And so, but that was the beginning, and from then on until David, I was in the cherry orchard again.
We picked at Cordner's,
Picked it, picked for Farley.
Farley, and
At
Cordner's.
Cordner's.
Were those the only two that we picked for?
Yeah. Well, we picked for this other fellow, and I can't remember his name, but that didn't last long. That was just a little 5 or 6 trees, that he had, and so
Yeah.
that didn't last.
I know Becky and I continued picking for Farley's, and we were probably two of their best white cherry pickers, because they would have
Yeah, a lot of
migrant workers that would come and that would work, that seemed to be picking a whole lot faster than we did. But
oh, they could pick so fast, it was amazing. But Irene is fond of saying that when, and I did this, I said, if you pick good, you pick fast, whoever picks the most gets my cherries also. So you're always vying to see who's going to get Mom's cherries for their.
well, Irene and I were the two that continued picking cherries.
Tom went. He started working for
Erkenbrack.
Erkenbracks. He broke away from the family's situation.
David really didn't do much cherry picking, or
David did do cherry picking, but it was kind of petering out. I was getting so that I wasn't interested in being in the orchard anymore, for sure.